We have a very strong left-leaning board today. So, the minutes have been sent to everybody. Is there a motion regarding approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, first official action is Resolution 1318, authorizing KUB to implement a pilot utility bill roundup program.
Commissioners, this is a great day for us because I want to take you back to about a year and a half ago when the city of Knoxville applied for a Smarter Cities grant from IBM, and they were successful, one of the few cities that got that grant. And the outcome of the process was that the IBM staff group recommended that there be an additional source of funding for weatherization for homes of low-income customers. And one of the avenues to do that would be through a roundup program with the local utility, which is us. We've been talking to you about this for the last year and a half. There's been a lot of work that goes into it. But today I want to recognize Eddie Black for the recommendation that we implement such a program.
Commissioners, as Mr. Oak said, this has been a long, comprehensive process. Today I'd like to summarize that process for you by talking about what the Rounded Up program is, where it came from, where the idea of it came from, why we think it's the right thing to do, and then how we plan to implement it upon board approval. I also want to give you a heads up about some new technology, at least new for a board presentation that we've implemented here. You may recall that in March of this year, the NPR staff was in Knoxville to do a story for the All Things Considered program on one of the issues that I'll be talking about today. We thought it was important that you hear that in its entirety, so we've embedded this 6.5-minute radio recording into the presentation for later on today. And as just a final preface, I just wanted to say that we recognized early on the importance of getting broad support for this program, especially in the city of Knoxville and Knox County, where most of our customers reside. And because of that, we've had discussions with both City Mayor Rohero and County Mayor Burchett on this issue and have received their support for this program. We've also talked extensively with Knoxville-Knox County Community Action Committee, or CAC. As you'll learn, they're going to be playing a key role in this as well, and we do have their support on this. As Mr. Roach was saying, it all began back in 2012. When Knoxville was one of 31 cities selected for the IBM Smarter Cities Challenge Grant. In May of 2013, 5 IBM global experts came to Knoxville to study the emergency energy assistance levels, how to measure and track that, as well as how to improve the energy efficiency of Knoxville's housing stock, especially the older homes in this area. Their findings were that almost $5 million a year is spent on emergency energy assistance. This is helping people pay their utility bills. This is money that goes directly to the utility. The kind of disturbing fact, though, was that many of these were repeat recipients and had been repeat recipients for years. Reason for that is that while their utility bills were being paid year after year, they weren't getting to the root cause of the issue, which was energy efficient homes that they were living in year after year. So none of these funds were going towards weatherization, energy use education, or anything like that. And this was aggravated by the fact that a large percentage of homes in Knox County were built prior to 1970 and don't have sufficient weatherization. IBM made several recommendations, all of which the city of Knoxville accepted. As a matter of fact, Mayor O'Hara took responsibility for implementing these recommendations. She's doing that through a stakeholders council that she's formed and several committees that are assigned to implement these recommendations, all built around the overall goal of addressing that root cause of the ongoing emergency energy assistance. Those recommendations, including having one voice around a shared vision, which is affordable, energy efficient housing in Knoxville, harnessing the data that's creating a system of computer systems that will allow all the agencies involved in this to better collaborate and coordinate their efforts, educating the community to affect behavioral change. And this is, when I say the community, I'm talking about both the low-income community and the community at large in Knoxville. Engaging the landlords. There's 51% home ownership in Knoxville. So a lot of landlords out there. They've created a business registry to better coordinate and communicate with landlords about some of these programs. And then finally, funding the program, which is where KUB is going to be playing the biggest role. This report was released in August of 2013. It was well received. Even got an editorial endorsement from the News Sentinel that was published shortly after that. The reason that it's important for KUB to take a role in the funding is that in the past, a lot of this weatherization funding has been dependent on federal funds, which tend to be kind of feast or famine. And what they were looking for was a local, consistent source of funding on this. So what was actually recommended in the IBM report was for KUB to consider a utility bill roundup program. This would be a voluntary program for rounding up the monthly utility bills to the next whole dollar. For instance, if your bill was $121.70, it would be rounded up 30 cents to $122. Mathematically and theoretically, the annual contribution could range from 12 cents, if all of your bills ended in 99 cents, and you just rounded up a penny for 12 straight months, or conversely, $11.88 if you had to round it up 99 cents for each of the bills. Monthly average would be around 50 cents per month, which is about $6 a year. We did some research on this, being used by many utilities across the country. I'll speak to that in more detail in just a few minutes. But the IBM report estimated that this funding could produce $600,000 per year for low-income weatherization if only half of KUB's customers participated in the program. What I'd like to do now is play that NPR recording where I've talked about the what and the where it came from as far as the rounded up program. Getting to the why, I think the NPR recording eloquently gets to that. So I'll be playing that here, and once again, this is a 6.5-minute recording.
Maybe, just maybe, spring is finally on its way after a bruising winter for much of the country. Even in parts of North Dakota today, the temperature got close to 50 degrees. Still, there is this remnant of winter, high energy bills. And for lower income residents, a hefty heating bill can be an especially big burden. NPR's Andrea Hsu went to Knoxville, Tennessee to hear how that city is trying to help those most vulnerable.
Think about cold weather states, and Tennessee is probably not one that comes to mind. But spend a few minutes in the customer call center of the Knoxville Utilities Board, and you get a sense of what kind of winter it's been.
So would you be able to pay that by 5 p.m. tomorrow, or did you need a further extension?
The utility has been urging people, if you think you cannot pay your bill, call us. We'll see what we can do.
So the amount to avoid the service interruption right now, let me get that for you here. It'll take me just a moment.
It was the coldest January Knoxville's seen since 1985. On average, gas bills were up nearly 30% from a year ago. But that's an average. For the poor, it's been even worse. Jeannie Fox is a customer counselor.
It's mostly the old homes, people that rent, folks that are on fixed income and lower income. Their housing stock is not as good. They're the ones that have suffered.
Most low-income housing here is energy inefficient. We're talking drafty windows and doors, old heating systems, little or no insulation, and monstrous bills. And so every year, social workers at the Knoxville-Knox County Community Action Committee field thousands of requests for help. All day long, they meet people like Bridget Caldwell.
How may I help you?
I'm a caregiver for someone who's in a wheelchair, and he called.
Caldwell has come to apply for energy assistance on behalf of the man she works for.
And I was wanting to get an application for myself as well.
Okay. Why don't we start with you?
Okay.
They've both received final notices, meaning they've got to pay something or their utilities will be cut off. They both usually pay on time, but this winter has set them back. Caldwell, a single mom, owes $260, more than a quarter of her monthly income. The man she looks after owes almost $450, well over half his Social Security check.
These are current charges, and this is kind of what we're seeing.
Cecilia Waters, Director of Energy and Community Services here, has processed these requests year after year for more than a decade. They come from the elderly, the disabled, and families with children.
It's a teeter-totter. You sometimes have to make choices between utilities and rent.
This year, the federal government is spending more than $3 billion on energy assistance for the poor. Knoxville and Knox County expect to get around $3 million of that, and the average grant is a one-time payment of $381. It goes directly to the utility. The program is a Band-Aid of sorts, but Waters says one that works.
It's here, and it keeps a lot of families stable.
The waiting list for energy assistance is now more than 3,000 families long. Waters is anticipating another chunk of federal funds soon. For the most pressing cases, she's turning to churches and other nonprofits, even the Knoxville Utilities Board, for help. Still, since the middle of December, the utility has disconnected more than 3,400 customers. Everyone here recognizes this is a perennial problem. Jake Tysinger is with the city's Office of Sustainability.
I don't think anybody wants to, no churches out there want to keep donating just to pay utility bills. They want to solve a problem. They want to make sure families are staying in their homes and being able to live a normal life.
The city believes the key to doing that is weatherization. The idea of weatherproofing low-income housing has been around for decades. The Recovery Act of 2009, also known as the stimulus bill, allocated record amounts of money for weatherization, $5 billion to be used over 3 years. Knoxville got $6 million, a windfall. Jason Estes, who's in charge of Knoxville's weatherization program, says it allowed them to work on some 1,500 homes, including one belonging to a former coal miner and his wife. In the winter, their utility bill would soar to $800 a month.
They wore 2 layers of clothes and socks. He actually wore a hat to bed. Where he laid his head, there was air coming through the window. He joked about it and said he kind of looked pretty funny, he guessed, but you have to do what you have to do. And they were always glad when the spring came.
Estes, who's a general contractor by training, ticked through all the improvements that weatherization funds paid for.
We put a new heat and air system in. We wrapped the water heater. We fixed the broken windows. We caulked all the doors and windows. We replaced lighting.
When all was done, the couple's energy use was cut in half. But here's the rub. Weatherization is expensive, as much as $6,500 a house. Estes says typically you'll get 20% energy savings, so it could be 15 to 20 years before the work pays for itself. But Estes says the payoff for those in need is immediate.
Somebody that's getting $800 to $1,000 a month to live on, and they have to make those choices between, do I pay my utility bill, do I buy my medicine, do I buy food? Well, that $25, $75 a month that they might save is huge.
Lately, Jason Estes has been trying to figure out new strategies. He's working on a database to show which pockets of the city have the highest energy bills, who's getting the most energy assistance, and how folks in weatherized homes are doing. If someone's still asking for help, he wants to know why.
Maybe they're not changing their behavior. Maybe they're letting more people move in, or maybe something has happened and we need to identify what's changed for that weatherization not to be saving them money.
Estes would love to weatherize much more of the city's affordable housing, but right now, that's a pipe dream. Since the Recovery Act, support for weatherization has plummeted. Department of Energy audits in other parts of the country, even elsewhere in Tennessee, found widespread waste and fraud and egregious examples of shoddy work.
That is very frustrating, and it's a battle that we have to continue to contain and deal with because it affects funding. Currently, we have 789 people on a waiting list for weatherization, and I have 0 funding.
So for now, the yearly ritual of stopgap utility payments will go on, as imperfect as it is. Andrea Hsu, NPR News.
So that covers the what and the why. The how KUB would implement something like this. We knew that there was a number of issues that we would need to address before we would feel comfortable making this recommendation to this board. These issues are all lumped into 4 main categories, and I'll be discussing each of these in turn. The first one, technical issues. Frankly, going into it, I thought that would be our biggest challenge because what we have to do is do the billing calculations, the bill presentment. We wanted to communicate this out through various means to our customers and also give them the ability to opt out if they so desired. As it turned out, because of the flexibility of our systems and proficiency of our programmers, this ended up not being a huge issue. but we did have to address or touch a lot of different systems and a lot of different processes and people at KUB. One of the examples is, when I talked about opt-out earlier, one of the things we'll be rolling out in January is making it as simple as possible for people to do that, including just checking a box on the back of the bill. But that's just one example of some of the things that we had to think of from a technical standpoint. Others were the program administration. KUB's role in this is to provide funding. In other words, be a conduit from our customers' contributions to the administrator of the weatherization program. Didn't need to reinvent the wheel as far as creating our own weatherization assistance program, especially when there's one as highly qualified as the CAC weatherization assistance program in town. So we started talking about this with CAC several months ago. Their program features many of the things that we would desire. The energy audit and cost benefit calculation to all qualified applicants that they do on each one of these things. There's a bid process that's administered through the Knox County Procurement Department to find qualified contractors to do the work. Invoices going directly to CAC. CAC also performing the post-repair work to make sure that everything is being done according to standard, and actually finding the contractor a couple of $100 if there's any deficiencies that they find. I guess one change, we did ask them, and this is a change they're going to make, to have this applied throughout the entire KUB system. As you know, we serve portions of 7 counties, and they were focused primarily in Knoxville and Knox County prior to this, but this will be expanded and will cover the entire KUB service area. We're very comfortable working with CAC. As you may recall, they administer our Project Help program and work with us on the private lateral program that we were doing as part of the consent decree requirements as well. You heard Jason talk about widespread fraud and shoddy work during the presentation. Let me just assure you this does not apply to the CAC program. They administered over $6 million in stimulus funds. A federal audit found a $30 disparity, and they wanted to dispute that. So no evidence of any kind of fraud or waste in this program with CAC. Customer input is something we take very seriously in this program, and we benchmarked other utility programs to find out what others were doing before we started talking with our customers about it. There are 16 utilities we took a look at that had roundup programs throughout the southeast. We found something very interesting. Of those 16, 10 had what we call opt-out programs. That's where everyone is enrolled automatically at the start of the program, and then customers could opt out at any time they wanted. The other is an opt-in program, where customers voluntarily sign up to participate. On the opt-in programs, the utilities that are doing the opt-in program, participation rates were very, very low, 1.5% to 5%, which is almost not worth doing. Those that had the opt-out programs, though, had participation rates ranging from 50 to 85%. And so, but the only problem with an opt-out is that there's a potential for customer concern when you add something to their bill that they didn't authorize. Even though these utilities communicated ahead of time and this type of thing, when customers got that first bill with this amount on it and they didn't have an opportunity to opt out on that, then that could potentially cause customer concern. So what we received as advice from these utilities is communicate early and often. We wanted to get a better idea of how our customers felt about this, though. So we took advantage of the fact that so many KUB employees are also KUB customers, and administered a survey this summer to them to find out their feelings about an opt-out roundup program. We used that information to refine the questions and actually administered a couple of different series of customer focus groups to external customers, non-KUB employees, and had some interesting findings. The majority of people like the idea of a program that would help fund low-income weatherization. There was the concern about opt-out, but the people that had the concern about opt-out, about 70% of them said that they would still participate in the program even though they had these concerns about opt-out. But one of the real aha moments that we found out in administering these focus groups was this idea of a pre-implementation opt-out. Every other utility that we had studied waited until they had actually kicked the program off before they gave the customers a chance to opt out of it. What we're wanting to do is give the customers the opportunity to opt out before we even implement the program. And we want to make it as easy as possible for them to do that. You saw that slide that had the technical issues about the number of ways people can pick up the phone and call. They can go into a branch office. As of 5 p.m. this afternoon, they'll be able to use our IVR system to be able to do that. Go on our website and be able to do that. We just want to make it as easy as possible for them to do that, starting if the board passes this resolution, it would start today. Once again, we would have a pre-implementation opt-out period that runs from January through April 2015. The back of the bill option for opting out would go into effect in January. And then once the program starts, they'll be able to opt out through all of these means, plus they'll have refunded to them any amount of money that has been taken, that's been added to their bill up to 12 months. So we're thinking that these steps will help mitigate any customer concern that we would have with the opt-out approach. We also heard that it's very important to have a communication strategy as you roll this out. So these are the main messages we wanted to focus on, that it's not just KUB alone. We're working with the City of Knoxville and CAC to fund and administer this low-income weatherization program, that it's an easy way to donate extra change to help low-income customers. And I needed to give the Partners Council, some of whom are sitting in the room today, credit for this title of the program, Round It Up. One of the other things we heard on the customer focus groups, when you call it Roundup, they said that's either a weed killer or a rodeo. What you need to do is call it something besides Roundup. So the Partners Council came up with the idea of just put a little "it" in there between, Round It Up, and that makes a lot of difference. Also, they like the tagline of "pennies for a purpose" that you might have noticed on the logo on the title slide. So thank you, Partners Council, again, for another really good idea. The third bullet, enrollment is automatic. As of May, everyone will be enrolled in this that hasn't previously opted out, but you can opt out even after the program goes into effect. Average contribution is only 50 cents a month, which is $6 per year, and this is the long-term solution for the root cause problem that's been identified. Key dates, of course, today we'll be bringing this board resolution to you for your approval. If you do approve, there will be a formal announcement at a media event next Tuesday. Then the pre-implementation opt-out period that I discussed earlier will take place for 4 months. And then roundup calculations will start in April of 2015. They'll start seeing it on the bills in May of 2015. And then they'll have the opportunity for the post-implementation opt-out after that. So, Commissioners, just in summary, this resolution authorizes KUB to implement a 3-year pilot program for funding this low-income weatherization program, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I had a question on the calculation. Does that mean it's going to appear on the bill like it would look, and then the next month is when it's going to start? Is that?
We'll be having communications about this, announcing that Round It Up is coming. For several months ahead of time, we'll have a whole communication strategy around that. But as far as it appearing on the bill, there will be a separate line item for Round It Up, and so they'll be able to see immediately.
And that starts the month before it actually goes into effect. I saw the April. Can you go back to?
I'm sorry, calculations.
Yeah, the calculation.
That's
right
an internal kind of thing for us. We'll
oh,
do
okay.
the calculations in
okay.
April and start showing up in May.
One of the things that, that you had mentioned on the that CAC was going to administer these funds, and you insisted upon that they are going to fairly distribute them throughout our customer base. Is that right? so that if somebody in Union County might have an equal chance to get their home winterized, is that, have you talked much about how they're gonna do that? Because that seems could be pretty complicated.
What CAC does is they rank order based on return on investment. That's one of the reasons they do this pre-audit. They determine which one has the most need, and that's the priority that they're listed at right now.
How do they decide the amount they will put to a customer that will apply?
There's a maximum of $6,500 that they can use. The average is about $4,500. It just depends on what the home needs. Obviously, if it needs an HVAC system, that'll be a pretty good chunk of money. But it just really depends on what the home needs and that return on investment.
And do they go back and check the bills to see after, like, how long do they do that to see actually? I know the guy said it was 50%. Do they go back to see how much it's cutting down on the bill?
They do, and that's something that we have requested that those reports be sent to us so we can track that as well.
How much is CAC currently funded, and how much will, say, the average of 50 cents a month, how much will that add to what their current funding? Is it
Right now,
double it? Will it triple it?
Well, right now, as Jason pointed out, it's essentially zero right
Okay,
now.
so they spent all their...
Yeah. If their average stays around $4,000 to $4,500, if our customers are able to contribute $600,000, that'll be 150 homes. But once again, that's just an average, and so it could be higher or lower than that.
Do we have any idea of the number of homes that in the community that need to be weatherized?
I don't know, but anecdotally, talking about the fact that they have 800 someone on the waiting list, it's going to be obviously much more than that, but I don't have a good number on that.
And will CAC be following sort of the same, and I know this isn't us, and this is their problem, but the same criteria for deciding the priorities and that sort of thing that they've been using previously?
Yes.
I mean, it's not going to change. This isn't going to change how they've been doing business.
Yeah, we wanted to fund their program.
Any other questions? Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion regarding Resolution 1318?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Coley, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Cannell, Commissioner Pennell, Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Resolution 1318 has passed.
Great, thanks. Next matter of business is Resolution 1319, recognizing the members of our PACE 10 Partners Council.
Commissioners, I don't need to remind you that it's been 10 years since we signed and implemented a consent decree and formed the PACE 10 Partners Council. It seems like a long time ago and then just yesterday to all of us. We have a resolution today that we hope you will approve that recognizes the participants of the Partners Council. But before I turn the program over to Bill to do that, I want to personally thank each of them and recognize them. And I'll start over here with Susan Edwards and Eddie Black. They represented KUB as a utility, but also as a citizen and as a customer on Partners Council. Partners Council started out meeting monthly. I think we met monthly for about 6 years, and the last maybe 4 years have met every other month. So there's a good bit of time that goes into this. Well, Eddie and Susan are here at work every day anyway, so it's not that big a burden on them, but it is to the folks that are over here. So let me just go around the group and introduce them, and when I do, I ask that they stand up. Randy Humble is on the front row. He was a representative of the Sierra Club, as I recall. Charlie Harrington in the back, he is a representative of North Knoxville. Renee Hoyas from the Clean Water Network, and also a representative of one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit that was the impetus to PACE 10. Ronnie Nees from the Knox County Health Department. Mark Hampton is here representing the Isaac Walton League. He came to some of our meetings. Nelson Ross was the actual member, but from time to time, Mark would substitute. On the front row is Cecilia Waters from CAC. You heard Cecilia in the NPR audio just a few moments ago. And then finally in the middle is Carolyn Forrester. We decided that this process was going to be a little bit like herding cats, and we needed somebody to facilitate us and keep us straight. So for 10 years, Carolyn has done a great job of doing that. So I want to personally thank you on behalf of all of our customers for what you've done. And now I'll turn it over to Bill.
Commissioners, let me just remind you, PACE 10 stands for Partners Acting for a Cleaner Environment. The 10 representing the 10-year, $530 million capital improvement program to improve our wastewater system. And the Partners Council, as Ms. Roach just indicated, was the first ever citizens committee that this board appointed to help KUB address a specific issue. And the efforts of the Partners Council have been so successful, and early on were very successful, that the board has actually copied that, at least that technique, one other time since then in creating the Tree Trim Policy Review Panel, which was basically a carbon copy of the Partners Council, but for an entirely different purpose. So it has been and continues to be a very successful program thanks to their help. Back in 2004, some of you were with us in Inskip Park when we launched the PACE 10 effort. The prior year had been very wet. There had been a significant number of sanitary sewer overflows during those wet weather events. Those overflows had gotten the attention of our regulators. It had led to a Clean Water Act lawsuit and ultimately to negotiations with the plaintiffs and with the regulatory agencies. And out of that came the PACE 10 effort, which basically defined an unprecedented construction effort that was going to be necessary to comply with the terms of the consent decree. We knew going into it that it was going to be critical that we have an extraordinary effort associated with the communications associated with our PACE 10 program. The amount of construction that was going to be required would be unprecedented. It was going to impact hundreds of neighborhoods directly and directly impact thousands of customers, and virtually all of our customers, actually all of them, would be impacted by the rate increases that would be necessary to fund this construction program. So the Partners Council was going to play a critical role, and did play a critical role, in our efforts to increase awareness in the community, to better communicate with them, more so than we've ever tried to communicate before on any effort or any initiative in our history, to raise awareness, to gather support, to create relationships and linkages with our stakeholders, and to better understand and work together through all of the problems that were going to be coming about as a result of the construction and the mud, the dirt, the debris, the traffic impacts that this was going to have on communities, on neighborhoods, and on our customers. The monthly meetings began very quickly. The facilitation worked extremely well. I would never have predicted that we could have bonded with this group, and this group have bonded together quite as well, quite as quickly as they did. And I think a part of that the credit belongs to the group themselves, but also to the facilitator. Carolyn did a great job in that regard. But not just did we bond together, but this group brought their constituency and their contacts from the community in as well. We were able then to create relationships beyond the group and create real working relationships that had a positive impact on the community's understanding of what we were doing, why we were doing it, and ultimately what the impact and the benefit to the community was going to be as a result of all of this work. We've talked about the diversity of the group. As you can see, the representation included neighborhoods, businesses, industries, the health department, local government, environmental groups, and obviously KUB's own representation. About half of the members in that picture are still on the committee today. The other half have rotated off. But as Ms. Roach indicated, probably one of the most significant aspects of this was that both of the plaintiffs in the Clean Water Act lawsuit were and are today still members of the Partners Council. We were communicating not just with the Partners Council and they with their constituency and bringing back information to us. We also recognized that we were going to have a lot of direct communication with the community, more so than with any project or any initiative that we've done in the past. We began immediately holding various meetings, community meetings across our service territory. We met in churches, in schools, and rec centers. Most of those meetings started out with a short, brief presentation to address everyone involved, and then broke down very quickly to breakout sessions and tables around the room where our engineers and communications folks and others could talk one-on-one with customers, look at maps, let them point out where they lived, and we could talk about what the specific impact was going to be on their home, their property, and work through those kinds of details and those kinds of questions. All of that was really new to us at the time, but it was so successful, it has really become pretty much the standard model for us today as we go out and deal with customers on any major project. So for those of you who have been to a community meeting lately and have seen how those work, it really goes back to its origins with the PACE 10 program and our communication efforts in that regard. As far as results, we could not have been happier with what we were able to achieve through the Partners Council or with the Partners Council members themselves. As I said, we've developed not only good, solid relationships with them, but relationships with those that they had relationships that they could bring to the table and bring to our meetings and bring into the discussions with us. This wasn't just about us communicating with them. This was about them taking that information, that message out into the community, bringing their views and their feedback to us and sharing that with us. Eddie's already talked about one of the successes we had outside of wastewater issues. We got very comfortable with the Partners Council, got very confident in them giving us good feedback. We began to take non-wastewater issues to them. We took issues related to our Century 2 program. We took issues related to tree trim, to the Rounded Up program. We took a lot of things to them, and they were very helpful in giving us feedback and instrumental in helping us to make some improvements that we might not otherwise have seen or considered absent their involvement. Perhaps one of the best compliments that I think the Partners Council has received is the fact that both of our regulators, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation and EPA, have sided with Partners Council and its benefits to other CD communities and have recommended that they too implement something along those lines to benefit their community and their efforts with their utility in implementing major programs to comply with consent decrees. So you can't get much more of a compliment than that when those folks point at this and these folks and what they've been able to accomplish and recommend it to others in similar situations. Today's Partners Council, this photo was taken a couple of meetings ago. Again, you can see there at the bottom the various interest areas represented by the folks on the council. Still very good cross-section of our customers and constituencies. Again, I can't say enough for what these folks have done and how well they have supported this program and added to the value of what we've accomplished in the last 10 years. Resolution 1319 recognizes the Partners Council. It also recognizes Carolyn for her efforts in herding us cats. We will hold our last meeting on this coming Monday. I'm sure we will say a formal farewell to them, but I'm sure we will continue to work with them individually and collectively in the years to come because of the relationships that we've built and their valued input. So we thank them and would propose this resolution for your consideration. Any questions?
Any questions for Bill? Move approval. Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, let me say that we appreciate your all's openness, Samantha, Bill, Eddie, Susan, the fact that you all came to so many of our meetings and you were there for us to question or get your input and feedback. So the fact that you, as the executive officers of this organization, showed up regularly to be available to us was very meaningful to me, at least, and I think to the rest of our membership. Thank you.
It was a joy.
Randy, we appreciate you and everyone else that was on this. The work that you did to help us with this PACE 10 program was the precursor to our Century 2 program, which is, in essence, the commitment of this board that the infrastructure of all the utilities, not just wastewater, but all of our utilities, is going to be strong and what it needs to be, not just today, but long into the future. And so you helped us get to where we are, and I think we're in a good place now. And for all of you guys, the ones that are not here, we deeply, deeply appreciate your work.
Well, I always felt our efforts were inconsequential compared to the efforts that KUB made. So thank you all.
You may think so, but believe me, but the input of the community in something like this that was not only unique, but I guess totally unprecedented. We need community input. So yes, these people did a lot of great work, and you can't say enough about them. But your all's help also made a huge difference. Any other discussion on the motion? Mr. Cully?
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Canal? Commissioner Canal? Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams? Resolution 1319 is passed.
Great. So at this point, we have the President's report.
I think it's apropos that we close today's meeting with the final presentation from Julie Childers with an update about what we've accomplished through the PACE 10 program.